I hear the words again, even though they were said 3 weeks ago. Casual, light, like he was commenting on the weather. My friends think you're unremarkable. Emp didn't look up from his phone when he said it. We were having dinner, the same dinner we had every Thursday, chicken, roasted vegetables, a glass of wine I poured for both of us. He chewed slowly, scrolled through something on his screen, and dropped that sentence between bites like it was nothing. Unremarkable. I repeated. He shrugged. Yeah, like, you're nice and everything, but they were asking what you do, and I realized I didn't really have a good answer. You work from home, you don't really go out much. You're just, kind of there, you know? I set my fork down. My hands didn't shake. My voice didn't break. I just nodded and said, I see. He smiled. Relieved, maybe, that I wasn't making a scene. I knew you'd get it. You're so chill about stuff like this. I didn't say anything else. I finished my meal in silence while he kept scrolling. After dinner, I cleaned the kitchen. I wiped down the counters. I put the dishes away. And then I went upstairs to my office, closed the door, and canceled every plan I had made for the next 6 months that included him. Not out of anger, not out of hurt, out of clarity, because unremarkable women don't build 8-figure companies in silence. And they definitely don't let their husbands find out the easy way. The word sat in my chest like a stone. Unremarkable. It rolled around in my mind while I brushed my teeth, while I changed into pajamas, while I lay in bed next to a man who was already asleep and snoring softly, completely unaware that he'd just detonated something he couldn't see. I stared at the ceiling for hours that night, not crying, not angry, just thinking about every time I'd downplayed a success so he could talk about his day, every time I'd nodded along while he explained something I already knew, every time I'd made myself smaller, quieter, less, so he could feel like more. And I realized something. I'd spent 8 years being unremarkable on purpose. 2 weeks later, EMTT came home with a suitcase. I was in the living room, laptop open, reviewing a client contract worth more than his annual salary. He stood in the doorway, suitcase in hand, and cleared his throat. So he said, I've been thinking. I didn't look up. About us. About what I said. And I think maybe my friends were right. You're a great person, Cora, but I need someone more impressive. Someone who makes me look good, you know? Someone people remember. I closed my laptop slowly. Looked at him. Really looked at him. He was wearing the watch I bought him last Christmas. The suit I paid to have tailored. The shoes I'd picked out because he'd asked for my opinion and then acted like he'd chosen them himself. The confident expression of a man who thought he was making a difficult but necessary decision. You're leaving, I said. I think it's for the best. I nodded slowly. Let the moment breathe. Let him stand there, suitcase in hand, waiting for me to beg or cry or ask him to stay. I did none of those things. Before you go, I said, voice calm, can I ask you something? He sighed, like I was already being difficult. What? Do you know what I do for work? He blinked. You work from home. Consulting or something? Crisis management consulting, I said. I run a firm. Did you know that? Yeah, I mean sort of. You help companies with their PR problems or whatever. Do you know the name of my company? He hesitated, looked annoyed. Cora, what does this have to do with? Do you know the name of my company? I repeated, I don't know. Cora Solutions, something like that. Catalyst Crisis Management. Okay, fine, Catalyst. What's your point? Do you know how much my company is worth? He shifted the suitcase to his other hand. I don't know. A few $100,000 maybe. Look, I'm happy you have a little business. But last year, I said, standing up, walking over to him, stopping 3 feet away. I sold a 40% stake in my company for $32 million. The remaining 60% is still mine. My personal net worth, as of this morning, is just over $57 million. The suitcase hit the floor. The sound echoed in the quiet house. A dull thud. Final dot. He stared at me, mouth open, eyes wide, like I'd just told him I was a spy or an alien or anything other than the woman he'd lived with for 8 years. The house we live in. I continued, my voice still steady, still calm. I bought it. The down payment, the mortgage, the renovations that added the home gym you love so much. Ami, the car you drive, the Audi you tell your friends you saved up for. I bought it outright. The vacation to Italy you loved so much, the one you still talk about at every dinner party. I paid for it. Your student loans that mysteriously disappeared 3 years ago, I paid them off. $63,000. You never asked how. You just stopped getting bills and assumed it was some kind of loan forgiveness program. His face had gone from pale to gray. That investment fund you're so proud of. I said, the one you tell people you built from the ground up. I seeded it with $200,000 you never asked about. I told you it was a gift from my parents. You never even sent them a thank you card. Cora, his voice cracked. Every vacation, every dinner out, every bottle of wine you picked because you wanted to impress your friends, every birthday gift you bought for your mother, every Christmas bonus you gave your assistant, every single thing you've done for the last 8 years that made you feel successful and generous and impressive. I stopped. Let the silence fill the space. I paid for it. He was shaking now. Actually shaking. I kept it quiet, I said, softer now, but no less clear, because you seemed happier thinking you were the successful one. You held your head higher. You smiled more. You walked into rooms like you owned them, and I thought that was love. Letting you feel big. Supporting you. Believing that if I made myself small enough, you'd finally see me for something other than what I could provide. His mouth opened and closed. No words came out, but you didn't, did you? I said. You looked at me every single day and saw nothing. You saw boring, quiet, unremarkable, because I didn't perform my success for you. I didn't wave it in your face. I didn't make you feel small. So you assumed I was, Cora. I didn't know. No, I cut him off, sharp and clean. You didn't ask. There's a difference. He reached for me. I stepped back. You're right about one thing, I said. You should leave. But not because I'm unremarkable. Because you are. Because you looked at a woman who built an empire and saw nothing. Because you valued the opinions of people who never bothered to ask me a single meaningful question. I picked up his suitcase and held it out to him. Your suitcase, I said. You'll want to take it. He didn't move. Just stood there, staring at me like I was a stranger. Like the woman he married had vanished and been replaced by someone he didn't recognize. Maybe she had now. EMTT. He took the suitcase, slowly. His hands were trembling. Cora, please. I can't. We can fix this. I was stupid. I didn't mean. Close the door on your way out. He stood there for another 10 seconds. Mouth opening and closing like a fish. Then he turned, walked to the door, stopped with his hand on the handle. I love you, he said. Barely a whisper. No, I said. You loved who you thought I was. You never met the real me. He left. The door closed. And the house was so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat. I stood there for a long time. 5 minutes, maybe 10, just breathing, just existing in the space that used to feel like ours and now only felt like mine. Then I sat back down, opened my laptop, stared at the screen without reading a single word. My phone buzzed. A text from EMTT. Can we please talk about this? I deleted it. Another buzz. I'm staying at a hotel. Room for 112 at the Marriott. Please come, please. I turned my phone face down. And then I called my lawyer. Martha, I said when she answered. I need you to prepare divorce papers. And I need a meeting. Tomorrow if possible. There was a pause. Then, calm and professional as always, she said, I'll clear my schedule. 9 a.m. Perfect, Cora, she said, voice softer now. Are you okay? I looked around the living room, at the furniture I'd chosen, the art I'd bought, the life I'd built and paid for while pretending it was ours. I will be, I said. And I meant it. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at my desk and pulled up every bank statement, every transaction, every receipt from the last 8 years. I made a spreadsheet, line by line, dollar by dollar, every cent I had put into our shared life while EMTT coasted on the illusion that he was the provider. The numbers didn't lie. They never do. Mortgage payments, utilities, groceries, vacations, his car, his clothes, his gym membership, his therapy sessions that he went to twice and then quit because he didn't need it, the engagement ring I'd bought myself because he proposed with his grandmother's ring, and I didn't have the heart to tell him it wasn't my style, so I quietly upgraded it a year later and never told him. Every single thing. By morning, I had a document 53 pages long, a financial autopsy of our marriage, and I knew exactly what I was going to do with it. M's birthday was in 3 weeks. He'd already sent out invitations to a dinner party. 50 people, his friends, his colleagues, his boss, the same people who thought I was unremarkable. The event planner had called me 2 weeks ago to confirm details. I'd said yes to everything, smiled through the phone, played the supportive wife. Now I called her back. Hi, I said. This is Cora, EMTT's wife. I'd like to make some changes to the event. She hesitated. Should I check with? No need, I said smoothly. I'm covering the cost. I'll send over my card details today, but I want to add a presentation segment. 30 minutes. I'll handle the content. You just need to make sure there's a screen and a projector, a presentation. For a birthday, a tribute, I said, to everything we've built together. I think it'll be really meaningful. She bought it. Of course she did. Who questions a wife wanting to honor her husband? Over the next 3 weeks, EMTT tried to come back. Text at first, apologetic, confused. Can we talk? I think I made a mistake. Please, Cora. I didn't mean it like that. I didn't respond. Not once. Then calls. Voicemails. Increasingly desperate. I love you. I don't care about the money. I just want us to fix this. Please pick up. Please. I'm sorry, Cora. I'm begging you. I let him spiral. Let him sit in the discomfort of not knowing. Let him feel, for the first time in 8 years, what it was like to be invisible. I met with Martha twice more. We drafted the divorce papers. We outlined the asset division. California is a community property state. But when you can prove that one party contributed nothing and the other contributed everything, the law gets creative. Spousal support? Not likely when your spouse is worth $57 million and you're worth $73,000. Division of assets? Hard to divide what was never shared. Martha smiled when she handed me the final draft. He's going to fight this, let him, I said. I have receipts. I also met with a PR strategist, Elena, sharp, brilliant, the kind of woman who could spin a disaster into a triumph before you'd finished explaining the problem. You're sitting on a gold mine, she said, leaning back in her chair, eyes bright. A woman who built an empire in secret while her husband belittled her? The media will eat this up. This is a movement waiting to happen. I don't want media, I said. She smirked. You won't have a choice once this gets out. But we can shape the narrative. Make you the hero of your own story instead of a tabloid headline. I am the hero of my own story. Her smirk widened into a grin. Then let's make sure everyone else knows it too. We spent 2 hours crafting a strategy, a statement, a social media presence I'd never bothered to build because I'd been too busy being unremarkable. A website for my company that actually reflected its size and scope instead of the intentionally modest one I'd kept live for years. By the time I left her office, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Excited. The night of the party arrived. I wore black, simple, elegant, a dress that cost $4,000 but looked understated if you didn't know fashion. Hair down, minimal jewelry, unremarkable if you didn't look closely, but if you did, you'd see the cut of the fabric, the way it fit, the quiet confidence of someone who didn't need to shout to be heard. I arrived early, watched the guests filter in, EMTT's friends, the ones who thought I was forgettable. They smiled at me, polite, distant, the kind of smiles you give to someone you don't really see. Cora, so good to see you. Cora, you look nice. Cora, how have you been? I smiled back, played the part, the quiet wife, the wallflower, the woman who existed in the margins of someone else's story. For the last time. M saw me and froze. He was standing near the bar, drink in hand, talking to his boss. When our eyes met, his face went pale, then red, then something between relief and panic. He crossed the room quickly, pulled me aside into a corner near the restrooms. Cora, he whispered, urgent and desperate. Thank God you're here. Can we please talk after this, please? I've been trying to reach you for weeks. I smiled, calm, warm. Of course, after. He exhaled, relief flooding his face. His shoulders dropped. His eyes softened. He thought I was caving, forgiving, coming back. Poor Empt. He reached for my hand. I let him take it. Let him hold it like it meant something. Thank you, he said. Thank you. I promise I'll make this right. I'll fix everything. I know you will, I said. And I walked away. Dinner was served. Laughter echoed. Speeches were made. EMTT's boss told a story about a deal Empt had closed last year, conveniently leaving out that I'd introduced him to the client. His best friend toasted to the man who has it all. His mother dabbed her eyes and talked about how proud she was of her son. I sat at the head table, hands folded in my lap, and watched it all unfold. Then dessert was cleared. The lights dimmed, and the screen lit up at the front of the room. I stood. Before we finish tonight, I said, voice clear and steady, I wanted to share something special. A tribute to EMTT and everything we've built together over the last 8 years. Applause, smiles. Empt looked confused but pleased. He leaned back in his chair, grinning, probably expecting a montage of photos and sentimental quotes. The first slide appeared. A photo of us on our wedding day, young, smiling, hopeful. When I married Empt, I said, I thought partnership meant supporting each other, lifting each other up, building something together. Murmurs of agreement. Heads nodding. The second slide. A graph, income over time. 2 lines, his modest and flat. Mine, exponential, skyrocketing. This is our income over the last 8 years. Blue is Empt, red is me. The murmurs stopped. Silence. Third slide. A breakdown. Mortgage payments, car payments, vacations, his student loans, his investment fund, every single expense, marked with my name. This is who paid for what. EMTT stood up, fast. His chair scraped against the floor. Cora, what are you? Sit down, I said. Not loud, not angry. Just clear. He sat. Fourth slide. The sale of my company stake. $32 million. The headline from the business journal that covered it. The date last year. While he was telling people he was the breadwinner, last year, I sold part of my company for $32 million. EMTT didn't know. Not because I hid it, Because he never asked. Because in 8 years of marriage, he never once asked me what I was worth. Fifth slide. A quote, his quote. In bold letters, my friends think you're unremarkable. The room was frozen. You could hear breathing, the clink of ice in someone's glass. Nothing else, unremarkable, I repeated, letting the words sit heavy in the air. That's what my husband called me 3 weeks ago. And you know what? He was right. I was unremarkable to him, because I made myself small so he could feel big. I stayed quiet so he could be loud. I paid for everything so he could take credit. I erased myself so he could exist. I looked directly at him. His face was red, blotchy, his hands were shaking. He looked like he wanted to disappear. But I'm done being unremarkable. Sixth slide. The divorce papers, filed, public record, EMTT and I are getting divorced. Not because I'm unremarkable. Because he is. Because he looked at a woman who built an empire and saw nothing. Because he valued the opinions of people who never bothered to ask me a single meaningful question. Because he thought impressive meant loud, visible, performative. And I was none of those things. So I must have been nothing. I turned to his friends. The ones who judged me, who dismissed me, who looked right through me at every dinner party, every work event, every gathering where I played the part of the quiet, supportive wife. You thought I was boring, forgettable, unremarkable, and that's fine. You're entitled to your opinions. But let me be clear, I don't need your approval. I never did. I just needed to stop pretending I did. Seventh slide. Photos, my company headquarters, my team, my clients, Fortune 500 logos, government contracts, crisis after crisis I'd solved while the world never knew my name. My name is Cora Jameson. I run Catalyst Crisis Management, a firm worth over $90 million. I've rebuilt reputations, saved companies, and turned disasters into comebacks for some of the biggest names in the world. And I did it all while being called unremarkable. Eighth slide. A photo of me, recent, confident, standing in front of my office building alone, powerful, visible, starting today. I'm not hiding anymore. I'm not making myself small. I'm not letting anyone tell me I'm unremarkable because I don't perform for their approval. I looked at him one last time. He was crying, quiet, humiliated, tears streaming down his face while 50 people stared at him in stunned silence. Happy birthday, Empt, I said, and I walked out. The fallout was immediate. By the time I got to my car, my phone was exploding, texts, emails, calls, people at the party. People who weren't at the party but heard about it. Journalists who'd somehow already gotten wind of it. By the next morning, I was trending. Not just locally, nationally. Woman reveals secret. $57 million fortune at husband's birthday after he calls her unremarkable. The headlines were everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Reddit threads dissecting every slide of my presentation. Think pieces about invisible labor. Articles about women who hide their success. Op-eds about fragile male egos. Martha called it 7a.m. You're trending. I know, good trending. People love you. You're a feminist icon now. Apparently, I laughed. Sharp and bright. I just wanted him to know. Well, now everyone knows. Including some very interested investors. Your firm's about to explode. She was right. Within a week, I had 3 acquisition offers, 2 partnership proposals, and a book deal I didn't ask for. My company's valuation doubled. My client list tripled. I had to hire 6 new people just to handle the intake calls, and Empt. He tried to contest the divorce. Tried to claim he deserved half of everything because we were married. Tried to argue that he'd supported me emotionally and that counted for something. Martha destroyed him in court. Turns out prenups are useful, and so are 8 years of financial records proving you contributed nothing. He walked away with exactly what he brought into the marriage, his ego, his delusions, and a reputation so damaged he had to move to a different city. I walked away with everything else. 6 months later, I'm sitting in my office. Not the home office where I used to hide. A real office. 20th floor, floor-to-ceiling windows. A view of the city that used to feel unreachable. A team of 43 people who know exactly who I am and what I've built. My phone rings. It's a potential client. A CEO whose company is in free fall. He's desperate. I need someone who can fix this. He says I can. I say, and I mean it because I'm not invisible anymore. I'm not unremarkable. I'm not small. I'm exactly who I always was. I just stopped apologizing for it. And that, it turns out, changes everything.